In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host and financial advisor, Rick Everett, along with a full complement of panelists for this episode, to include partner and financial advisor with Market Advisory Group, Danny Goolsby. Our lead CPA with Market Tax Services, Joshua Cicora. Senior Medicare Advisor with Market Medicare Advisors, Corey Hebert. And from Eidelman Law Firm, our estate planning attorney, Devin, Seward. Welcome in, everyone. If you're a regular viewer, you've come to know that we often use real stories from meetings with real clients to share useful information in an effort to help educate you on some of the pitfalls that can and have cost people literally tens of thousands of dollars as they plan for retirement. Now, this is before they came to meet with us. The following is one such real story that happened around the conference tables of Market Advisory Group. And Danny, you recently met with an individual that we'll call Barbara, changing the name up a little bit. And she's been working with her employer, for her employer, I should say, for 54 years. What a duration. And she started working for this employer when she was 18 years old, the only and that she's ever worked for. Now, she was making a good income from her job, but she readily admitted that she had done a poor job at preparing for retirement. So much so that she told a coworker, who is one of our clients, that she thought she'd literally die at her desk.
Yes.
Okay. She was already receiving Social Security and had been for a couple of years. Kind of pick up the story there and tell us some of the finer details.
Sure. So here's a single lady who had been, as you say, working for an employer for 54 years. That would put her into her 70s at this point. And again, like you said, Rick, she planned on dying at her desk. She was taking, she had a daughter living with her at home. She had a grandson who she was legal guardian over. And she was wanting to help out those children and grandchildren in getting a start in life, if you will. She was, by her own admission, she was a self-proclaimed giver. And as it happens with most of us, her career had literally flown by. I mean, it seemed like the time of 54 years went by just like that. And before you knew it, she was now at retirement age, but she was not ready to retire. She wanted to keep working. You know, and as you said, she had done a little for retirement. So I'll let you pick it up from there.
Well, and this is where the story takes an interesting and tragic turn, is she was the single breadwinner, and between her income from work and her Social Security income, she was providing a nice lifestyle for her and her family. Then she received notice from her employer of 54 years that she had 2 weeks left to continue working and that they were laying her off. Okay, so what a shock to her system. I mean, her entire work identity wrapped up in one single employer, and now with no more than 2 weeks of notice, she's being let go.
Yeah, she was devastated. I mean, devastated. So this woman, she does not live here in town, so we were calling from her, and I've not met her in person yet. We've done Zoom meetings, several of them before, but as I said, she was devastated. I mean, she was an emotional, in tears. She was crying lots of times when we talked over 2 or 3 different conversations. She was extremely fearful of how to go forward, you know, and who to turn to. Does she go down to her bank? Does she talk to a coworker? What did she do? And so, as I said to you earlier, that it was a coworker that referred her to us, and I'm going to call this coworker Fred. But he'd been a client of us for a number of years. And Fred told her that, he said, you know, you ought to be able to pick up the phone and call those folks down at Market Advisor Group, or MAG for short, because they have all of this brain power, if you will, under one roof, and you don't have to go all over the place to try to find bits and pieces of your answers. And, you know, she, as I said, she does not live in a a town, a rural area. She lives in a rural area where she doesn't have access to a lot of people anyway. So she tried calling her HR department and trying to get answers from her HR department, and while waiting on hold and then feeling like she's getting incomplete answers when she'd do that. She was not getting as much help at all. So in the past, she was the income earner for her household. She had prepared and filed her own taxes, so she filled that role as well. Her nest egg to that point was through the employer plan, through her employer. Her health insurance was coming through the employer plan as well. And she had health insurance on her grandson because, again, she was legal guardian of her grandson. So her grandson was also on her insurance through the employer. And as you said, with only 2 weeks' notice, it was ceremoniously right off into the sunset. I just went blank there for a moment. Josh is over here laughing at me. And so she was given 1 year severance pay and 2 weeks worth of knowledge ahead of time. And hopefully you get your affairs in order before you leave in the next 2 weeks, because we no longer have a position for you. And so I'll let you pick it up from there. Well,
it sounds as if she went from feeling very independent to feeling completely lost. I know I would. The life in the world that she'd only known in her adult life was ripped out from underneath her without any warning, Danny, and that's tragic.
Yeah, again, she had been with this employer for 54 years, which is quite a long time. I mean, most of us, that would be on the other end or the long end of someone's work career in our culture, so to speak. But she still didn't see herself as retiring. And so she didn't know where to start this next 2 weeks, and it was clicking by and it was going by really fast. And where was her income going to come from? She didn't know how her severance pay was going to be taxed, and if she started taking money from her 401k, she didn't know what the tax implications of that would be. She believed because she hadn't accumulated as much as she wanted to, because she had been helping this child and this grandchild, that maybe she could take more risk in her 401k than really maybe she should be taking at this stage. So she wanted to swing for the fences when it came to her performance in the stock market through her 401k, if you will. And because her health insurance was through her employer, she didn't know where that was going to go through. Does she go to Cobra? I mean, she knew she had some options with Cobra, but she knew she had some options with Medicare because, again, she's in her 70s at this point. But she didn't know anything about Medicare per se. She didn't know if she should be going with Medicare Traditional, if she should be going with Medicare Advantage. Didn't know, again, who to talk to. Knew lots of people maybe she could call on, but wasn't necessarily comfortable in asking for help because it was so enormous coming at her. It would almost put her in a state of freezing up, and so the days on the calendar were going by, and these things need to be decided on. And she was literally almost in a state of shock.
And Danny, life just isn't fair sometimes. And thankfully, she had that coworker, Fred, who had worked with Market Advisory Group and was able to tell her where she could find some of those answers in such a desperate time. And in the next segment of the show, we'll go ahead and share how Market Advisory Group and our team responded to Barbara in the midst of her bewilderment. In the midst of your bewilderment, who do you turn to? Do you have an entire team of professionals that are looking out for your best interest? Or are you just working with a financial advisor, getting incomplete advice when you need advice to fulfill the whole retirement picture? At Market Advisory Group, we practice the holistic approach to retirement planning, from the financial aspects to estate planning, tax planning, and Medicare advising. And we do it all under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation, our operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll come back with the rest of Barbara's story right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room. And we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, you know, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Welcome back into Ion Retirement, and in this episode we're visiting about Barbara, who had spent 54 years working for the same employer when all of a sudden life as she knew it and understood it was literally ripped out from under her feet, and she was given 2 weeks notice to get her affairs in order. Danny, not knowing where to begin, where did you and the team from Market Advisory Group start with her?
Well, so Fred, our client that she knew also, we actually met in the conference room together, Fred and us together, and we sat down and we made a phone call to her, and I was just introducing myself to her and saying, hey, this is who we are, and I understand that you have some questions that have been thrust upon you. You know, and maybe you might need some help. And I don't want to insert myself in some place that you may not want us to help, but if we're here to help. We've been able to help Fred, and he had somewhat of a similar situation. He wasn't ceremoniously let go with only 2 weeks notice. And so what we did, again, we started making some notes of what was going on and started trying to prioritize some of the decisions that she had to make in such a short time. You know, again, I can't express to you how hopeless she was, and so it was certainly trying to be sensitive to things, but also trying to start moving forward with what decisions to make.
Danny, according to a recent article in Barron's magazine, it's titled, Running Out of Money is the Top Retirement Worry. And they go through and they explain that this is a very, very common concern. And in this case, I mean, clearly, this was a major concern for Barbara.
Well, it definitely was for her. She first thought taking her severance as income would set her up for a year. And I'm going to bring Joshua into this conversation here in a second. But as it turned out, the way she was going to take her severance wasn't necessarily what she thought initially. So again, all of this is happening in a very rapid moment, and I can't express how fast the clock is ticking off for her in her head, thinking, what have I forgotten? What have I overlooked? What have I missed? Because she was not expecting this day to arrive. we brought Joshua, our lead CPA, in from Market Tax Services to advise her on options on how to take her severance, how to take her income, and any other tax issues that we may have. And so Joshua, I'll let you talk about I'm not gonna get into the details, I'll let you do that.
Yeah. So you're exactly so. Walking in there, she was just devastated. She had all this unexpected change coming all at once, and she didn't really know the first place to go, let alone, 8 steps down the road. And so her initial reaction was, here comes this pot of money that I didn't have before. There's no, once taxes are withheld, the taxes are done with that. So let's just stretch that out as long as it lasts and then deal with the next step down the road. And so we started having a conversation with her where that is an option, but then you've got this other sources of money that are just sitting there, and you're going to be in these different tax places as it is. So instead of doing all one and none of the other, let's kind of mix those a little bit. Let's take some of this money from here, let's take some of this other money from here. So this way we start controlling how much you lose due to Uncle Sam taking a taste out of it. So one of the things she really talked about was running out of money, right?
Yes.
And like Rick was just saying, that's a big concern. And unless you planted a money tree years ago, then you're not going to have something to shake down when things run out. So we were able to talk to her about how controlling those different sources of income would let her stretch that out even longer than just all one versus all the other.
Well, and while running out of money may have been one of her initial concerns, it wasn't her only problematic situation. Simultaneously, while losing her predictable income of 54 years, she was also losing her health insurance from her employer. And so, Danny, how did you address that situation?
Well, what I described to her was that MAG, we have a full service of different professionals here under this one roof. Whether it's the financial advising, whether it's the tax planning with Joshua. And in this case, when we talked about health insurance, we were bringing in Corey. Corey, again, she didn't necessarily have someone she could rely on to ask about it. And I said, well, it just so happens we have another professional here in the office, and his name is Corey. And let me introduce Corey to you. And Corey, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. So with her situation, being over the age of 65, the only reason that she was still on that employer coverage was because she did have that grandson that she was covering through her insurance. So the shortest answer right away in the meantime was there was going to be a period of time where she was going to have to take some COBRA coverage. Whenever we talk about Medicare, we are dealing with a government source of insurance. And it's not always the quickest thing to get set up. So we do want to make sure that we have her covered for the meantime with the idea that we are going to get her moved over to Medicare. So the insurance that she was carrying was deemed creditable coverage, which means whenever she goes to sign up for Medicare, even though she didn't do it at 65, she's not going to be facing any late enrollment penalties. But that does come with having to prove to the government that she did have creditable coverage. So whenever we go to file for Medicare, we do need her employer's HR department to verify that she had been carrying that coverage through her employer that entire time. After we got that form filled out, we did that application for Medicare, sent all the forms in to the appropriate parties, and it took us about a month and a half to get the Medicare situation figured out because anybody that's looked into COBRA coverage before knows that it is a very more expensive than normal option for getting health insurance. So we did want to get her moved as quick as possible, but there are steps that it takes to do that.
In a situation like this, you can relate instantly to somebody who was cruising along and planning for a retirement down the road somewhere, and perhaps even in the near future, but not in 2 weeks, okay? So having the income and the job ripped out from under her feet was one situation for Barbara. And then it required 2 other elements of the team at Market Advisory Group. How do we disperse these funds in a tax-efficient manner? And what do we do about our health care coverage? And there were more questions surrounding her sudden retirement, and we'll pick up the story when we return with the final segment of the show. It takes an entire team to have an effective retirement plan. Who is your team? Who's looking out for your back in your retirement planning? At Market Advisory Group, we provide a team of professionals that encompass the entire holistic approach to retirement planning, from the estate planning to Medicare advising, tax planning, and of course the financial advising. And we do it all under one roof for your convenience. Go ahead and set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation or perhaps a second look at your current plan. You can do so by picking up the phone and calling 316-252-8707. Again, our operators are standing by to take your call at 316-252-8707, and we'll be back with the final segment of this show right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Picking up our story of Barbara, we've talked about her suddenly losing her job of 54 years and where income would come from. We've talked about the tax aspects of drawing from various pots of money and how to take distributions as efficiently as possible in a tax-wise manner. And we've even shared about her losing her health insurance and her grandson's health insurance at the same time as losing her predictable income. Now, with all these losses, her mind now went to her daughter and grandson. What else, Danny, needed to be addressed?
Well, again, this all seemed to be spinning like a top and going faster and faster. And so she was saying, seeing how fast things deteriorated to the point where, you know, just last week I was just working in my job just like I had in the previous 54 years, to now in the next 2 weeks, I'm no longer going to be here. I'm going to have to clean out my desk and I have to create up a new identity. And having that identity problem, I mean, we spend our lives as a culture, we have our identity is wrapped up in our work. And so again, it was a grieving process that literally she was going through to try to figure that out. I recommended that we bring Devin and our estate planning attorneys into this conversation to talk to her about what other things she's missing. And so Devin, when you spoke with her, how did that go? How did that conversation go?
I mean, it's always a tough conversation. She was in such a state of despair and panic that, you know, you really just try to calm them down. And, you know, the legal world can be so complicated and complex. I try to, you know, make it as simple as possible for our client and speak to them in a way that they're going to understand. And so for Barbara, you know, she didn't have a ton of assets, so it's more straightforward of a plan. Her main big asset was her home. And so we needed to figure out how to protect that and ensure it was there for her daughter and then her grandson. And so, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. We do a specific Medicaid asset protection trust, which if you put the home in that trust, and then you have to wait out the 5-year look-back period. And as long as you do both of those things, then the home is protected from the estate recovery of the government. And, you know, even though one of the concerns is that she was in her 70s, and so you want to make sure that person's in good health and they don't have any health scares or potential conditions. And that way she can stay out of the nursing home for the next 5 years. And as long as she does that, then she's fine. You know, another thing, you know, her daughter was living with her. A lesser known exemption is if you have a daughter that's living with you, they can actually provide care. And as long as they keep you out of the nursing home for 2 years, and I'm simplifying this, oversimplifying it, but there's a lot of rules to it. But if they keep you out of the nursing home for 2 years, then that also protects your home. Oh. And so that's some different way. And so sometimes we'll try to do a variation of the trust and of that exemption. And so I just talked her through all of that and explained her options to her. And, you know, we made sure she had, you know, a will to go along with that and powers of attorney to go along with that for finance and medical. And, you know, we also want to try to do, you know, transfer on death deed if that's necessary. But yeah, so we just talked her through all those different scenarios and options and tried to help her find the best fit.
So literally today has been about just kind of, in a brief time, talking about her situation and how to make it best for her. Where was her income going to come from? How was the taxes going to be addressed? Where was her health insurance going to come from? What kind of things did she need for the legal world? So we were able to address those things with her, and it's an ongoing process, but she was a whole lot more relieved when we got done than when we first started.
And it takes a whole team to have an effective retirement plan in place. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation with our team, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Rick Everett, along with the entire team, reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Unless otherwise indicated, all client names have been changed to protect their identities. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Edelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. All rights reserved.